welcome to the Three Married Ladies Opinions podcast. I'm Each One Teach One.
I'm Nika Knight.
This is Selfie.
Okay, so today's topic, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at another question. So, should a marriage license expire like a driver's license? So when I saw that question, posted somewhere, I thought about it. I was like, oh my goodness, that would be a really interesting topic. Now, what do I think? Honestly, just because of how I was raised, my religious beliefs, I'm going to say no, because in my opinion, when you make a vow for life, for marriage. So that's just me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I can understand how some people could want to do a 5-year marriage license or a 10-year marriage license. Because if you just get married for civil reasons, not religious based or anything like that, I could see how someone could say, hey, look, let's see how we can, work with this for 5 years. And then if we think it's working, let's continue. So I can see how some people would be okay with that. But for me, my house, no. My thing, I get the So definitely not to have a marriage license expire. But, ladies, what is your pick?
Well, this is Mr. Selfie, and I like the idea. Because,
Me too.
it's always the opportunity to renew. You can renew the license. And also how, both parties kind of reflect on their marriage. Like, okay, we've been together for 7 years, and now our marriage license is up for renewal. Do we want to renew? So it'll bring some interesting conversation and maybe even some forgiveness and healing and saying, you know what, I think we can proceed. Let's go to the next level. Yeah, and then for others, instead of hiring a divorce lawyer, if you don't want to renew, you don't have to renew you out of the marriage. So it's a cost-effective thing too. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to pay for a divorce. You don't have to worry about who's getting this, because my assumption is, you both leave with what you came in with. You don't have to worry about that person and go through all of that exchange. It's just that, okay, we won't renew, so we're not legally binded together on earth. That's my opinion.
Cool. All right.
Well,
what if one person wants to renew, though, and the other person doesn't?
Well, then that's when you have to hire the lawyers.
We may not escape the lawyers.
And you get a suspended marriage license. Like, you know how they suspend your driver's license until you pay some fees or you get your taxes and stuff like that in order. Yeah, you just be under suspension. And still be married, but just, suspend it for a minute until you get it together.
So, what you think?
Well, I think it's a good idea as well. I agree with Mr. Selfie. I would if that was the case, like when you first got into it, you could have a potentially expire and renew, and this person has to figure out whether or not we should still I think we should get like a report card. Like I think like every not 7 years, I think it should be earlier than that. I think it should be like every 2 years or whatever, or even maybe once a year, we should have a report card on each other. We should ask these questions about that other person. Like I think it's a good idea to be like, okay, these are the categories for what a good marriage is. We come up with the list and then we grade each other on it. And then you have a report card and you be like, well, maybe because you kind of failed this year, do you really think you want to still be married to me? Oh, no, maybe I do, maybe I don't. And then you can, or maybe I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to work on myself. Maybe you gave me a bad grade. Okay, maybe it's something I need to work on. So, I don't know. I kind of think it's a good idea. I really think it's a good idea because if I think when I got married 12 years ago, and we'd established that we was gonna grade each other every year about how we did the previous year, I don't know. I think we would be in a better emotional state than we are now. I think that because I am a person that, like, when we was talking about what you should know before you get married, I suffer from depression, right? I do have other health challenges, but I suffer from depression. So this is something that he knew before we got married, but was not familiar with. Could not recognize it if he seen it. So when it was happening, this person did not come to me and say, this person, my husband did not come to me and say, this is what's going on. This is how I feel you're acting. So I'm going to go do this because I feel you're acting like this. He couldn't express that to me. He didn't say that to me in so many words. He would do passive aggressive stuff, which is kind of like what I do as well. So I'm trying to get out of that. Like, we both do passive aggressive stuff. He would just say, oh, if you don't want it right now, sooner or later, I'm going to stop asking you. That's some passive aggressive stuff. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just saying, but I would ask him outright. Do you want to see somebody else? Do you want to be with somebody else? Is there somebody else that you're seeing? I would always ask outright, and he would always tell me no. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, if somebody comes to you outright with the truth, wants to hear the truth, saying that you can work it out no matter what, why can't they just say, oh, all right, yeah, or no? Or, or tell the truth. But I think that should happen when the license is up. Like, I think you should be able to say everything that you've done in this past year, or haven't done, or what you want to improve, and then make the decision whether or not you want to renew for another year or two. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so here's my other question. So, most of the time when people get married, not all, they get married in a church or a synagogue or a mosque, right? So if you're looking at vow in terms of the religious sense, you think that would deter pastors, imams, priests from marrying couples then?
Yeah.
Because from their perspective, they're marrying two people that's going to be in this for life. Mm-hmm. So do you think that the type of license there should be a distinction between a civil marriage license and a religious marriage license?
That's interesting. I don't know. Because
I think that's already going on in New York. Instead of what is it? When you live with someone for like 7-8 years, what is that again?
Common law.
Oh, common law marriage.
So instead of the common law marriage, now they have something called domestic partnership, where it's not a marriage, but in order to have like some type of housing with a person that you're not married to, you can do like a domestic partnership type thing. But yeah, I mean, like, if it's, because, religion is separate from the state. Like, hey, that's two different things.
Yeah. So if you get married in church,
if that's the case, you don't even need to invest in getting a marriage certificate if you're going to get it in the church. The churches need to go ahead and certify you married. You don't have to go and get no license and all that other stuff through the state to recognize. The church should just automatically do it. And then those that want their marriage certificate to be renewed or suspended or terminated go to the state. They go to NBA.
Well, you still need that marriage certificate. If you get married in church, you still need it recognized by the state so that you can have protection. So that license that you get to take to the church or the mosque or whatever, that's to protect you statewide. Your service and who's marrying you is the religious part of it.
So what is that license protecting you from, each one?
So, like, if Derek got sick, right, and he was on life support, I'm his next of kin now, not his mother. If we did not
Okay,
have a
yeah.
marriage certificate, or because every state doesn't recognize common law or domestic
Mm-hmm.
partnerships in terms of that. So, you need to make sure that you check your state's laws, and that's why a lot of same-sex couples wanted to get married because, domestic partnerships only went so far. So if their partner was sick and dying, their parents would be the next kin, or their children would be the next kin. So a lot of the protections that people that were married got, domestic partnerships didn't have as much protection. So that's why, they were fighting for that too. But yeah, that's the interesting. It's interesting because I could see how some people could say, "Hey, let's just see, like, try it out, like a
Mm-hmm.
test drive." I guess I don't know if I want to be test driven though. Again, I don't want to be that easy. I don't know, but the other side, if you find some things that you didn't know before you got married, I guess it
Mm-hmm.
would be an easier way for you to, escape that. So
Yeah.
I can see how some people would say, yeah, it would be good for you to be able to do that, but I don't know. I think
Yeah.
that's going to open up a
Question
whole
that,
lot of other issues.
and that's a question that my husband and I, we ask each other well, it's only been two, but on our wedding anniversary, like, would you say I do again? And, we, of course, because we face to face, and I'm just saying, of course, sometimes I don't believe it, 'cause I know I could be that jackass and pain in the ass. So I'll be like, yeah, right, you wouldn't say I do again. You probably be like, I do as long as you do this.
Right. Well, some people have their vows. They make their own vows. Like,
Yeah, I made mine.
doesn't do like the traditional vows that's in, the church. Right?
Yeah, we didn't do the traditional vows. We didn't do the traditional vows. We got married by an officiant and we wrote our own vows. But
Yeah.
my sense of marriage is different in the past 2 years. So when I got married 12 years ago, that was it. Like, that's it. Once you're married, that's it. It's for life. But if I had a chance, like, now to be like, oh, there's a cap. Oh, okay. We get to grade each other. Oh, okay. I think I might take that because to me, it might motivate the other person. If they really want to be with you, it might motivate them to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna do good this year. My report card gonna be good. We ain't gonna end it. We gonna keep going on." Or it might show the other person like they really ain't want to be there. So to me, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea, but it's not gonna happen.
I know. I thought it was a good question to ask because it does make you think about, what about vows? Like, when I really said I do, like, what was I saying I do to? Well, am I saying I do to, only a certain time? Am I saying I do to only certain events? Am I saying I do only if you do this? Am I saying I do only if you're healthy? Am I saying I do, those are all some make you really think back and say, like, what did you really say I do to? Because a lot of times people just repeat the vows because they say repeat after me, but you really not looking at what you're vowing to, what you putting your name to, what you saying is your word, this is what I'm committed to,
And sometimes you don't really meet that person until after the I do. You have some people that will do everything you want them to, and you be like, oh yes, this is it. He's the bomb. This is my happiness. And as soon as you say I do, you get on this other part. Like, what the hell happened? I feel bamboozled.
Yeah. And that last part is till death do us
I know he was this broke. He was always buying me Gucci bags. Now he can't even pay the rent.
Right. He don't work.
He won't get up and work. He won't
work it,
Yeah.
So if you a person that loses jobs every 6 months and you like that, like, what's going to happen with the bills? Like, I could do this by myself if you're not going to be working. Like, it's women that's like that. Like, look, if you're not going to be able to help me by working, you want to leave a job or lose a job every 6 months or every year or every 2 years, you moving around, if we don't have any stability financially, then, finances, as we talked about before, is a big part of and a relationship, a marriage. So if you do a marriage license, is there a criteria that should go with it? Like, is it like a contract? Like, because marriage is pretty much a lifetime contract, and it's those vows. But if it expires, do you rewrite it so that it's different? So that it's like, okay,
be expired.
If you keep a job for this long, if you do this for this long, like you're agreeing to a contract.
But I don't know. That's kind of like, then where's the love in it? If it's just a contract, if it's just like a business decision, like what I was trying to say before, like there's stages to me in a marriage that goes through where you're all this lovey-dovey and stuff like that, and then it comes to reality, like Shalita, like Mrs. Selfie was saying, you got all this mysticism about what marriage is supposed to be, and then now you're married and it's like, okay, you said you was gonna do this, you said you was gonna do that, and then they don't. So then that's the time that you gotta look at yourself and be like, okay, this is what I married for. I'm married to be with this person for the rest of my life, because that's what Disney did. Disney did that to me. Like, I had all this fairy tale stuff in my head. It's still there, but slowly coming apart. That Disney was like, you meet somebody that you want to marry, and you meet this prince, and you forever happily ever after, and they never show the happily ever after. So you never know that.
Damn, I'm turned back into the frog.
Yeah, like, so Disney messed my head up. I'm making it my duty to make sure that my daughter, even though she does like Disney, to make sure when she's at an age to understand that that's not it. This is not what happens. There's real truth that happens after you meet someone, and it's not all, oh, they lived happy ever after. I want to get that out of her head early, because it's been in my head for years and nobody ever took that out. So nobody ever showed me different, because my mother, she never got married to my dad, but she did get married to my stepfather, and he came into my life when I was probably like 7 or 8 or something like that. And they didn't even get married until maybe I was probably like a teenager, like 16 is when they got married, and they've been married ever since, and they've been together forever. But I mean, together, now through diseases, through, a whole lot of things. So I feel like I did have a strong sense of what marriage is supposed to be like, but it was that idea, because my mother was so strong that my stepfather didn't really have that much say in what goes on with me. So I never seen, I seen the love, like he would always buy her gifts and buy her flowers, they would kiss. I seen the intimacy. So I am that type of intimate person. But what did I end up marrying? The person that I ended up marrying was not him. The person I ended up marrying was my father. I ended up marrying somebody like my dad, who doesn't show emotion.
That girls marry men like their father.
Yes.
You sometimes marry the opposite of your father, or you marry your father. And I think I married the opposite of my father.
Okay.
I married the opposite. But you can look at Disney in a couple ways, right?
I married my daddy.
I didn't marry my dad, child. I can talk about my daddy, but
child, actually looks like my father, the man that raised me. He looks, I don't show people when I be telling him, like, you need to ask your mother what was she doing around this time. Was she down south playing around with your daddy, because that's how much they resemble each other. Like, even when I bring my husband around my father's side of the family, they all gravitate and they all love him because his whole spirit and how he carry himself is just like my father. You know, they just be, you know, my uncle, we used to say when he first met him, was like, you remind me of somebody. And I'm like, yeah, I know exactly who he remind you of. And how my husband cared for me, like when we out or if I'm not home at a certain time, is similar to the same way my father would have cared for me. So I'm like, yeah, I know I married my daddy. So I know how to have that too.
I didn't marry my dad. No, I married somebody. They have similar interests, but personality-wise, they are so different. Like, when you hear my dad talk, you would think my dad was like this pimp, for real. In the 1970s, for real. Like, he is just like all in there. So, I mean, Ryan O'Neal don't have nothing on my dad, for real. So, I married somebody completely opposite, and like I was saying about the Disney, you can look at Disney a couple ways, right? So they do say they live happily ever after, but if you look at it, for them to get to the happily ever after, it was always some type of struggle that they had to go through. So, in a sense, they were kind of showing you like, yeah, you get a happily ever after in the end, but it's a struggle to get there. You see what I'm saying? As a kid, all you do is focus on the end part because that's the main thing that you see. But the in between time, like Snow White, she bit that apple. She ran away from home. Her prince had to find her again. He couldn't figure out. The prince in Cinderella, she got the ball. He had to go try to find her. You know,
not only had Cinderella's sisters wanted her man, so
yes. So, right, there are some different ways you can kind of look at it. Plus, you always look, and it was the prince saving the princess. So a lot of times we are looking for a man to save us. Like, where's my prince? Where's the dude that's going to support this? You know, at this now we can do that ourselves. Like, I didn't need somebody to save me. You know what I mean? So I can see how you can have like a view of happily ever after, you know, but there is struggle. And because marriage does go through phases, you could be saying, let this marriage certificate expire right when you're in one of those phases. Which means you could really miss out on having a really good marriage. So it's just something to consider. Because at that point, you may not be lovey-dovey, like you said. You may be struggling, you know. But on the other side of struggle, you may see, well, dang, like we came out of this much stronger than what we went into. So to wrap this up, in my opinion, do I think marriage license should expire? No. Because like I said, you could be in, you know, a phase of marriage at that time where it doesn't seem like, you know, you're going to make it, but you really do. And you can really miss out on having a really great marriage on the other side of conflict. So, in my opinion, no. That's a good idea. All right, ladies, what's your last opinion on this subject?
Well, Nick at Night, I think that from this subject, I have learned that I am going to come up with a report card. I think I want to do that. One more task for me to do, but I think I want to come up with that so we can like evaluate each other. At this last anniversary, we got to find we actually got to go away because our anniversary is the day after Christmas. We rarely get to do anything, but this year we actually got to, you know, spend a night out with each other. And I asked, "Is there any time that you felt like you wanted to leave?" Like I asked that question, and you know, so I feel like asking that question and giving a report card might entice the other person to be like, well, maybe I should step it up. Maybe I should do better. So that's my opinion. Mr. Selfie?
This is Mrs. Stephanie. My opinion, hey, expired, suspended, or renew. After 7 years, you gotta put a time frame. 7 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so that wraps up this session. So thank you all for tuning in to the Three Married Ladies Opinions podcast. Nick and Knight is going to give you our contact information so that you can send us more topics that you would like to hear from us. So Nick and Knight?
You can send it to 3mlo.topics@gmail.com. Look for us and join our Facebook group, Three Married Ladies Opinions. And like us on our Instagram page at Three Married Ladies Opinions as well. And check out our website at www.threemarriedladies.opinions.com. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good morning.
Peace.